This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, I have the lovely, the beautiful, and the absolutely talented, and if you've seen the Farrelly brothers movies, somewhat crazy, Lin Shaye on the phone with me today. How do you do, Lin?
How do you do? I'm doing great, and thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it very much.
Well, I'm very happy to have you. I know we've been connected on Facebook for a while, so I'm really glad we were able to make this happen, and yeah, it's truly an honor.
Oh, thank you so much, Greg.
Yes. Did you realize this is the 20th anniversary of There's Something About Mary?
You know what? Someone else mentioned that, and that's hard to believe. It really is. First of all, time seems to be a very tricky, very fickle woman. It's hard to keep track of how fast things move, and you know, sometimes we all get impatient when things aren't going quick enough, and then you realize how fast time does go, and it's important to appreciate every minute. I can tell you that, and that was a wonderful experience. I truly can barely believe it was 20 years, though.
So it's the 20th anniversary of Puffy.
That was Puffy. Yes, that's true.
Has he gotten out of the cast yet?
One of him sits proudly on my desk.
Well, it's better than being on top of the car, like Ben Stiller forgot.
True.
I saw that movie when it originally came out, you know, and I absolutely love it. It's one of those movies that it's actually, I call it a perfect date movie.
It really, you know, when it was first released, it's really interesting. When it first was released, it didn't do very well. I mean, it was, you know, they didn't shut it down, but it made very little money until the 8th week of release, and then it was #1. And it's crazy because people loved it so much, they kept going back to see it over and over. And I think it's one of the funniest movies ever made. I actually just watched it again not too long ago, and I forget it's me actually in it. I can sort of look at it as a real objective audience, and it's just one of those. It hit all the funny places at the right time in people. And when I actually saw it in the movies, I walked into the theater. The movie had been on for about maybe 15 minutes, and for a minute I thought there was thunder, and what it was people laughing. And I literally saw people fall out of their seat watching the film. So I'm very proud of it and proud of my work in it, and it's very exciting to be a part of something that's so iconic.
Yeah, that we see you in bit parts in a lot of movies. Like the Farrelly brothers have used you very well, but that was one of your bigger roles I had seen you in at that point.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, and you did some brave stuff, like letting the dog lick your teeth while you were talking.
Well, that sort of happened. I mean, that was not planned, and it was one of those moments where I'm not sure what. I mean, I love animals. That's for sure. But I kind of picked him up, and we were doing a take, and he just went for my face. And I actually think there was something in the latex, or because I had a lot of makeup on him. That was 4 hours of makeup to create that look, and I think there was something that the dog liked, because when he started licking me, it was this really intense, really intensely, and I just stuck with it. I remember there was that moment of almost cracking up, and Cameron was laughing so hard she was crying, and the camera was on me, so everybody I could hear the crew. People were just they were hysterically laughing, under their breath while we were doing the take. And, it was one of those, you couldn't get it again. That was it. I mean, the dog had actually licked a hole in the latex on the side of my face that was not facing camera. And it's one. Pete came running out, and he said, that's cinema gold. He said, that's one of those things you couldn't make happen if you tried, and you couldn't reproduce it if you wanted to. So we were very grateful that nobody cracked up and ruined the take, and it's there forever. People will hopefully enjoy it as long as they enjoy the film.
Well, we learn a lot of stuff from you in that film, like, banana split after sex and
Right, exactly. I mean, doesn't everybody?
what was it like working with Cameron Diaz? She was a delight in that film.
She's great. She's a really wonderful woman. I mean, she's very funny, very smart. She was delicious to work with. I mean, extremely giving, very smart. She knew everybody's name on set. She was a real team player and a really terrific person. I haven't seen her very much, actually, since we shot the film. But, and I just remember there was one moment, and I think it was the scene right before Puffy gets thrown out the window, where she looked at me and she said, "Do you think this is funny?" And I said, "I don't know." And the rest is history. We weren't sure. You never know. People ask me that. Did you know it was going to be? And you never know. You make the best film you can. You hope you make good choices. It's always about problem solving. And when a movie is a hit and a success, it's kind of mysterious in some level. Timing is very important of when the release is and what people need at that time. And there was obviously a real need for this kind of humor in that moment. And I'm forever grateful for it. It really did. It changed my life. I mean, that character became so iconic that it really made a difference in other things that I got from then on, too. So thank you to the Farrelly brothers forever.
And Cameron Diaz, of course, is the face for Hairspray after that, or hair gel after that.
Totally. And she, I really think, and she's a terrific actress, too, by the way.
Yep.
She really, really does her work. She's no fly-by-night, pretty girl. She's really a fantastic actress.
Well, I know you're an animal lover. I'm just curious. Do you ever let Matt Dillon watch your dog, or did you learn from that experience?
I think we kept Matt Dillon away from my dog.
Yeah, bad things happen, huh?
Bad things happen when Matt is around dogs. So, but he was also, every actor in the film was just great. I mean, it really was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And again, you never know what is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I mean, there's no formula, really, to getting it right. It really is a combination of temperament, personality, professionalism, again, timing and time and space. What is an audience looking for? Right now, Black Panther is perfect. It's this huge hit, and it's just about time, finally, for the black community to have a giant action hero success story. It's especially with all that's going on in our world right now, not to get into politics.
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
But timing is everything. I mean, it really is. You can have a great piece of material that people don't even discover until years later. And that's in every art. It's not just filmmaking. It's, look at all the great painters that weren't discovered till they died. It depends on what's the temperature. And entertainment and art in particular, I think, serve a very important purpose in people's lives, whether they know it or not. Even populist entertainment like filmmaking and popular music. And we look for outlets to express what we're thinking and what we're feeling. And film is always a very safe place to put those ideas. And I love film. I think it's a really important medium in people's lives.
I think one of the big reasons There's Something About Mary did so well is because, number one, we love Mary. She's very innocent. But you like Ben Stiller. He happens to really care about Mary. But it's also interesting because Matt Dillon, despite playing a sleazebag, you kind of like him too. And I forget the actor who played who's the comedian that had had the things on his arm pretending to walk?
That was Lee Evans.
Oh, Lee Evans, that's right. He was so funny in it as well, everybody was so funny. You didn't have a dislike for them, and I think that was one of the charms of that movie.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. You have to be, even bad guys have to be likable on some level, and meaning you have to maybe like to hate them, in certain kinds of films. But or you have to care about them, as I think. Even if you're playing a bad guy, there's some reason the person's a bad guy. I mean, I always look for that as an actress. Like, what is it? What's the full story? Why is this character the way they are? And you can inform your performance with that as well, which makes people care about your character. No matter, they don't judge you; they just experience it.
I love that shot of Matt Dillon when he shows up and he smiles and he's got those big teeth.
Done. That's great. The Farrellys are very talented men. I guess Pete is shooting a drama right now in New Orleans. I haven't seen him for a while, but and it's with Viggo Mortensen. I know that, but they haven't. They're staying away from comedy. It looks like at the moment, anyway. But those were, Kingpin, Dumb and Dumber, and Mary were their three probably biggest achievements, I think, in terms of breakout comedies.
Yeah, you had that other trooper role too, where Matt Dillon is looking through the binoculars, and Cameron Diaz is just getting ready to undress, and he pulls those big binoculars out, and he catches you, and I guess you have this fake piece on that.
I actually have that fake piece hanging in my office as we speak. I took it out of the garbage. It was a latex piece that was only used in that one shot, and when we finished the day, I took off the leotard. It was actually on a piece of fabric, and I threw it out, and I was just leaving, and I thought, I ought to hang on to that, so I actually framed them, and it says Magda's boobs. Something about Mary. They're probably worth more than my house right now. So, it was a very clever, very, very innocently clever movie. I think they really hit the nail on the head with it.
Well, I love There's Something About Mary. I've got it home on Blu-ray, and I saw it when it originally came out. It's just a great movie, and you did some wonderful work with the Farrelly brothers. Of course, I remember Dumb and Dumber. My brother and I saw that on its opening weekend at the old Kmart Plaza here in town, and of course, you played Mrs. Newtyburger.
Noogie Burger, as Jeff Daniels so affectionately called me.
There's another one you want to keep away from your pets.
Really, no, but and that was that was really the first thing I did with the Farrellys, and it was a very small part, and they were happy with what I came up with, because being a dog, again, I thought about character and who this woman was, and tried to make her look like her dog a little bit, because when we were in hair and makeup, I said, can you give me curls like French poodles have that curly pompadour at the top of their head when they're clipped for show, and so we did that to my hair, and Pete was very grateful for what I brought to the role, so that laid the groundwork sort of for Kingpin, although Kingpin is a whole long story. They didn't want to see me for the role, and I kind of created that character all by myself, sitting in my house, and finally was able to wangle an audition and went in dressed exactly as you see me in Kingpin. That's my favorite role ever, is Mrs. Dumars in Kingpin. I can honestly say that had a lot of triumph involved with it also. I did not give up. They didn't want to see me, and finally I called one of the producers and begged them, and perseverance is a big deal in every business, not just acting, but if you got something and you want to get it out there, you got to keep pushing. That's a little tip about to whatever it is you're trying to do, whether you're a writer, a musician, a painter, an actor. Don't quit just because someone tells you no. You got to keep going. Be prudently aggressive.
I love Kingpin, and I think it's absolutely underrated. And actually, it was my
not
first.
So underrated anymore. I mean, it's one of their most popular films.
Yeah. Well.
Also, when it first came out, it was, though. No one really paid attention to it for a while.
I love Kingpin, and I gotta say, I've been podcasting here since 2015, and at the end of that year, I had the absolutely gorgeous and stunning Vanessa Angel on my show to talk about Kingpin, and I'm still in touch with her. I remember I sent you Valentine's Day wishes on Facebook. Well, I sent them to her as well. Yeah, I don't have her on my friends list, but she always responds to me though. So, she had spilled the beans and said that those weren't real boobs that were being punched in that scene.
Oh.
Where she beat up Woody Harrelson in the parking lot.
Right.
I think that is one of the funniest scenes I ever seen. But I heard...
She's lovely also. She's a very lovely actress and really nice person as well.
Yeah, I like her. She said to me that even though she didn't have any scenes with you, she did see you in the makeup chair getting the veins applied to your legs.
Right.
But I heard that it was Randy Quaid's idea for Sound of Silence being played during that scene.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, that was a good choice.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson was so good in that. What was it like working with him?
He was awesome. He was really very supportive. Just an actor. He didn't play famous person or anything. He was a terrific partner in the scene and was very supportive of all these broad choices that I made for my character, and I mean, he really made the scenes happen. He's one of my favorite actors, period. I mean, I have such admiration for him as an actor and his work and everything he does. He's meticulous and just a joy to work with. I hope to work with him again someday. I really, really, really enjoyed being around him and creating moments with him. It was fun and exciting.
I like that little comb over he has during the film. It's just hilarious.
Well, him and Bill Murray, the two hair people.
Oh, yeah. But no, I loved it, though, when you get frustrated. You reach up and you pull that little flower thing out of your hair of frustration, you know?
Yep.
And the tongue thing you did, too. I love that little outtake at the end of the movie where you're doing the whole tongue thing.
Yep, that was fun. Definitely fun.
Was that just something the Farrelly brothers just wanted you to do an extra take on? Because, I mean, you seem to...
That was my idea.
Oh, that was your idea.
and Pete just kept the camera rolling. He knows... One thing about Pete is he knows when to yell action and when to yell cut. I mean, he's very clever at not interrupting actors' ideas with imposing his thinking on things. He's a very strong director, I found, in terms of what he wants to create, but he's totally open to actors expanding and embellishing what their character says to them. And so that was one of those moments. I mean, we started doing it. It was kind of half written. There was something about it in the script, but he just said he kept it going because he couldn't wait to see what I was going to come up with next. So it was very fun. He was very supportive.
Did you work on all the Farrelly brothers movies?
No.
Because I know you were in Three Stooges. I know that.
Three Stooges was the last thing I did with them. No, I was in. I was also in Stuck on You. I had a small role in that.
Mm-hmm.
And Dumb and Dumber and Kingpin and Mary and Stuck on You and the Three Stooges. Those were. I was in Me, Myself, and Irene, but they cut the role out.
Oh.
And that was with Jim Carrey, and that was who is also a fantastic person, and he's a really interesting guy. And even the little tiny bit I had to do with him, and as I said, the scene was cut. But I remember he looked at me. There was this one thing. I had this smoker's cough that I was playing with for the character. And he just looked at me, and I was like coughing up phlegm or whatever it was I was doing, and he just looked at me. He says, "Sublime." was real supportive also of other actors and ideas.
You also worked a lot with Walter Hill. You did quite a few movies with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your experiences with him?
The roles were small, but the first It's interesting because the first thing was The Long Riders, and which is a fantastic movie, just a fantastic movie with the Quaids and the oh gosh, I'm just blanking on the other brothers. It'll come to me, but the Randy and Randy Quaid was in it, and so was the Carradines.
Carradines, okay.
Yeah, and so it was real brothers, which is what the movie is about. Is the Long Riders is these battling brothers basically, and I wrote notes. I'm very proactive for myself. When I wrote notes and tried to get an audition, and Jimmy Keach actually was responsible. It was the Keach brothers, Keach and Carradines.
Okay.
So Jimmy Keach was. I had met him. I knew him in New York. I did a play with him years and years ago in New York, and I asked him if I knew he was doing the movie, and he mentioned it to Walter, I think, is how it all went. And I wrote Walter a little note, and he brought me in and hired me for one of the prostitutes. It was just a small scene, but a really nice scene where I'm dancing with Randy.
Okay.
And Walter was Walter's a wonderful guy. I mean, he hasn't. I'm not sure what he's doing right now, or if he's still working on films, or if he's got a film he's working in. But he was just always very supportive of me, and it's kind of people that you didn't really know very well, but there was that moment of recognition of each other and support, and that's pretty much what I always got from Walter. I think the last time I saw him was some years ago at the Saturn Awards, and I was really excited to just see him there, and he was very polite and cordial, and so it's when you finish a film, it's sort of like the camp is ending, the vacation is over, and everybody goes back to their home, and you do see, and even sometimes you say, oh, we got to see each other, and we got to get in touch, and let's have lunch, and let's have dinner, and it does not always happen that way. Occasionally it does, but you move on to the next adventure, kind of. But my experience with Walter was always very supportive, and again, that moment of sort of recognition from him, which at that point in my career was very important, because I had a lot of small parts, but I was just trying to do my work the best I could in whatever I did, and he acknowledged that.
Yeah, he also did Brewster's Millions, and of course Richard Pryor and John Candy no longer with us.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. No, before we get to the Insidious film, there's a few films I do want to ask you about. You did Goin South with Jack Nicholson, which also had John Belushi in it.
Right.
You want to talk about that?
Oh, all these stories have very long, they're all very long stories, basically. I flew from New York to L.A. to meet Jack Nicholson because he had expressed interest from, a picture he had seen somewhere of me when he was casting Goin South, and I flew myself out here to meet him, basically, and wrote him also a note and sent photos, and he hired me for this little tiny part in Goin South. It was again my first time in L.A., so I didn't know if I was going to stay or not. I was living in New York and doing theater. I had not been doing film at all. I'm a theater actress from the beginning, and lived in New York for years and did only theater and really wasn't interested in film. And Goin South was probably my first role in a movie, other than a little tiny thing I did in New York for WGBH Boston, a movie of the week that was on. It was a television film. That was the only other film work I had actually done, and I had one line. I had one line in Jack's movie, and I had a little tiny role in a movie called Hester Street.
Okay.
That shot in New York. But this was my first outing out here, and I got hired it was a small role to go to Mexico for 2 weeks, and it was a wonderful cast. I mean, John Belushi and Chris Lloyd, and of course Jack, and it was Mary Steenburgen's very first role, and Jack was awesome. I mean, he was again a tremendous supporter. I think when I look back at things, and actually talking about them makes me see this.
Yeah.
I sort of got the nod of approval from a lot of very important people. And that, for me, meant a tremendous amount. You know, it wasn't about the size of the role. It wasn't about anything other than a kind of acceptance and recognition of me as a person and as an actress, whether it was a one line or whether it was a huge part. And Jack, as he is affectionately calls himself, and most people, I mean, I still call him Mr. Nicholson. He was, again, a very supportive presence in my life, and Belushi was there with his wife, and they were living it up in Mexico. Veronica Cartwright was also in it.
Yeah.
A terrific cast. Tracy Walters. These were all Jack's people. I mean, they all were, a lot of them were friends of his, and as well as actors who worked with him. So it was great. What could I tell you? I had one line, and I was there for 2 weeks, and ate a lot of Mexican food, and enjoyed learning and watching other actors work. I mean, that was the other thing I always watch, even to this day. I mean, you don't know anything. Just always remember you don't know anything. That you can learn from everybody. That's another little tip. I mean, always pay attention to how other actors work, what they do to get what they need. Cooperation on set is extremely important. And people like Jack Nicholson, they're consummate professionals. I mean, this is not just, come on, let's just goof around. I mean, they really, Jack's an amazing talent. Amazing. Yes. And an amazing director as well as actor. And he works really hard. So I learned from watching him. I learned plenty from watching him.
And of course, you played a school teacher in A Nightmare on Elm Street. How about that Heather Langenkamp falling asleep in your class?
That was very fun too. That was people. Some people know my brother. My big brother is Bob Shaye, and he started New Line Cinema in 1968, and A Nightmare on Elm Street was their first big movie. That they didn't know. Again, they didn't know it was going to be a big movie. You don't ever know. You can't go into making a movie going, oh, this can be a really big movie. You go into a movie and you tell your story, and you solve problems, and you give the best you have every day, and you pay attention. And I know Bob was not sure. This was Wes Craven had been trying to get that movie done, and I'm not sure the story how he and Bob actually met. I think he brought it to Bob. And I was basically got the job. My brother has been very generous to me, pretending he's not, because we still have a big brother's little sister relationship. But he basically said to Wes, "Put my sister in your movie." So that was how I got the job, and it turned out to be a obviously very successful film. And interestingly enough, people remember the teacher. They remember that character. So. It was a good scene. That's the other thing. It had a beginning, middle, and end. And if your director or story don't give you that, as an actor, you have to create that for yourself.
Yeah, I've had Amanda Wiss on here from that film, of course, was interrupting poor Heather in that body bag.
What? I'm sorry.
She was outside the room there, the body bag on there, and when Heather gets up and leaves your classroom.
Right.
Yeah. And one last film I want to ask you about before Insidious, and I love this film, and it's going to celebrate its 20th anniversary next year, is Detroit Rock City. And I got to say, I love your opening scene. It's so great.
I don't remember the opening. What was the opening scene? You probably remember. I mean, I can't remember. I certainly remember the film and everything, but I can't remember what was the first scene in the film. Well, it
reminded me so much of Rock and Roll High School.
It's when I come to the window and knock on the window? Is that?
No. You're about to settle down with a glass of wine, and you put this nice record on, and the Kiss music blares.
No, that's great. It's a great scene. It's definitely one of the most famous scenes ever. Yeah, it was a great scene. It was wonderful. I really loved it too. And that movie has had huge popularity. Actually, I'm in another film that Adam Rifkin is just getting released called Director's Cut with Penn and Teller.
Okay.
And it's going to get a release, I think, this year sometime. I'm not sure how it's all going to work out, but Adam is a very wonderful writer, director, and that was a great role. It is, and people love that movie. So I'm happy. I've had wonderful opportunities, as I said.
You worked with a lot of great young talent in that movie too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that opening scene just set the mood of the movie. You reminded me of Mary Woronov in Rock and Roll High School as Miss Togar. You know, that's what you put me in mind of, and that is totally a compliment.
I don't think I ever saw that, so I never saw that film. But thank you. Okay.
Well, P.J. Souls is a rebellious teenager who wants to go to a Ramones concert, and Mary Woronov is the principal who's trying to stop the kids from listening to rock and roll music, and it's very campy and very hilarious.
Great. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Good.
But we got to talk about those Insidious movies, and I'm going to tell you, it was so great to see you get a really big part like this, because we've seen you in the Farrelly Brothers movies and other movies, and you really steal your smaller roles, but this really gave you pretty much center stage, and that's a great thing, you know. And you stuck with all 4 films, which I'm assuming, you know, it's probably your biggest role to date. Would that be accurate?
I guess maybe so. I mean, I never think about size of role. I really don't. So I think in terms of screen time, I think you're right. Yeah, I think that's you know, this last one in particular was very, it was really Elisa's story. So on that, you know, in that way, I definitely have more screen time than I've ever had on a film. And, you know, I'm glad it's been so well received. The film has done extremely well. It's my favorite of all the stories, I think, literally. The first one was a wonderful movie as well, and I thought had a really strong story. But I think this had so many twists and turns in it, and a bit of a murder mystery, and had, I think, real commentary, social commentary thrown in there as well, which I feel very proud to be a part of. And so, all in all, I'm happy camper. I'm glad people liked it, and you know, for me as an actress in general, I just want to keep working and keep telling stories. And I've never had a goal about, oh, I want to be this and I want to be that. I still don't think about my life like that. I mean, I really enjoy the things I enjoy. I give it my all. I'm always try to do my best, and whatever happens, happens. And I've been very rewarded for that behavior by success. And that's been a real eye-opener for me, too, about, you know, getting your eye on getting famous or it doesn't mean anything.
No.
It doesn't mean anything. You don't get famous. You get work. And if you do good work, people recognize your work. And that, I guess, equals a certain kind of recognition. I'm not interested in fame, period.
No.
I'm just not. And I actually don't like, I think it can be I think it's a trap.
Yes.
For some people.
Yes.
And so the fact that I got to a point in these films where the audiences love the character and love the story, and therefore they like me in the role. I mean, what a treat! You know, I'm thrilled to pieces. I mean, I couldn't be any happier. We had a wonderful run on this with Sony in particular. We did a fantastic interview tour to Hong Kong and Brazil, and all these international journalists that were just so interesting, and and to have this profile, international profile, is almost more exciting to me than the domestic part of it. I mean, the people in Indonesia, it was the highest-grossing horror film ever in Indonesia.
Oh, fantastic!
That's a lot of people.
Yes.
That's like 600 million people. I mean, I don't know how many people are in Indonesia, but that, to me, equals success.
Yep.
No matter if anybody knows my name or doesn't know my name, the bottom line is they love the storytelling and they love the essences of the film, and so that for me equals success. I've been. It was unexpected, and it still leaves me a little bit speechless. And I don't really understand it totally, but again, I mentioned before about timing is everything, and there's something about this character Elise that is very appealing to people, and especially young people, both boys and girls, men and women, young men and women especially, who seem to really gravitate towards. I like to say, and I did say in many interviews we had, Elise is a giver. She's not a taker.
Yep.
And this is a world right now of takers, it feels like.
Yes. Yep.
Made some turn, and I think it's like the wrong turn. But hopefully we'll come back to the center at some point again. But and I think there's something that resonates about that character where it's about you, it's not about me. And, I always joke about the iPhone. It's not the we phone or the they phone or the us phone. It's the iPhone. It's I. It's all about me, my. And Elise is very different than that. She's about you. And, I mean, of course, this is a broad statement. There are many generous, giving ideologies in people, and both in art and in the world right now. But the focus seems to be more, especially because of all the technology, is really on me. And I love that Elise is she's not a me person, she's a you person.
Yep.
And young girls in particular seem to gravitate also that I'm older. I'm old. I got old.
You're 39.
And I'm embracing it, and I'm not worried about it. I mean, that's the other thing in quote Hollywood.
Yep.
There's this emphasis on youth and getting your face done and your Botox and your Restylane and your schmitzy pitsy. Will I never do it? I'll never say never about anything. I never have. No. And I don't know that I really want to or will, because I feel I am where I am because I am who I am.
Yep.
And I don't need to feel I want to alter that. And I'm proud that older women and young women are acknowledging each other, and that's part, I think, of Elise as well. She's kind of ageless. It doesn't matter how old Elise is.
No.
It doesn't even matter that she's a woman.
No.
It matters that she's this person who is involved and interested in helping other people in their lives. That to me is a beautiful statement.
Absolutely.
So I think that has some of the appeal of the movie is that, and I'm really proud of that, Greg. I feel really proud about that. And there's been a lot of articles written, too, about older women in Hollywood, finally. So here I am.
I'm preparing
I'm happy about it, and I hope I live very long and work as long as I live.
Absolutely. In preparing this interview, I had to chuckle about something, because I was like, Elise is as battling this demon, and I'm sitting there thinking, what if you went into that realm as the landlord from Kingpin and brought Puffy with you, because Puffy only barks at the bad people.
That's true, too.
Could you imagine? Do you think he would last very long against that landlord?
Totally. He would totally last against the landlord.
I could see the landlord in there pulling that flower out of their hair, and but here's one thing I really loved about your work and especially the writing part in the Insidious movies is the comedy brought in through Elise's relationship with I'm trying to find the two Angus Sampson and Lee Winnell. I love the humor and the relationship brought in between the three of you, and that was really brought on strong in the last key, because they decided, you know what, we're a family, we're coming with you, even though this is something you said you wanted to do by yourself. I love that aspect of the film.
You know, no one's mentioned that, and that's a beautiful thought, and I agree with you that she, you know, in spite, and that is what family does. They say, we don't care whether you want us there. We know you need us there, and we're going to be there for you. And that's another element that's a beautiful thought, Greg. I mean, I think that's and that sets up this sort of comedic, lovely relationship that they have throughout this film as well. You know, that there's more comic relief in this one. I love this movie. I think it's really dramatic and exciting. It's and I love the sound design of the film too. I hope people see it in theaters if they can.
I did.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I got so into it, I forgot I was in it for a minute. I swear to God. I go, oh my God, that's me. But that's. I'm glad you noted that, and that those relationships are part of what makes the film successful too, because they're not just scary movies. You know,
absolutely.
They're about family. They're about problems families have, and this one in particular, you know, touches on child abuse and. You know, subliminally, we know there are a lot of young people who are abused and who don't talk about it.
That's right.
And I think put that out there, maybe even opens up dialogue for people to discuss what their father was like to their mother and to them, or people hide a lot of stuff that we don't know about, you know. And again, art is a place to be able to express things you don't really want to talk about in public, but that can reach you, you know, emotionally and internally, and allow you to express it.
Well, in the last key, there was one moment that got a big laugh, is where there's this place where you have to crawl through and get these boxes and open them up. And I like the fella goes and he says, wait a minute, shines his flashlight in there, and he goes, okay, go. Get you to climb in.
Angus is really a fantastic actor too. I mean,
it's funny, yeah.
Really, he and Lee are a terrific pair. They're real close friends in real life. And actually, as soon as Angus would come on set, you couldn't get a word in edgewise. The two of them just one up each other, and they're both brilliant writers, both of them, and comedians and serious actors. They've kind of got it all, and you know, I think there's a real rich relationship there too. That's real, that translates to the story, and I love that. And we love each other. I mean, Lee Winnell is a very special guy. I mean, he's one of the smartest people I know. I don't know how he even said it's hard to live with himself because his brain never shuts off. And he's got it all. He's a wonderful writer. He's a wonderful director. He's a wonderful actor. He's a wonderful dad. He's got new twins in his family, a little boy and a little girl that were born 2 days before we did some additional footage shoot on the film. And he's, you know, his cup is totally runnething over and over and over, and they all are. It's a wonderful group of people. I'm very, very lucky to be a part of that group.
And for, of course, the first two, of course, you had like Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne and Barbara Hershey. You had some real other great talents in this as well.
Yep, and they were equally as wonderful. Rose was wonderful to work with. Patrick was great to work with, and so was Barbara. I mean, it was really it's been a very, very, and Dermot Mulroney was in the third one. And he was also, and Stephanie Scott, who played the young girl in that, she's got a big career ahead of her, and I think doing a lot of big stuff right now. So everybody is really, you know, it's been a real exciting experience for me, and I guess it does all boil down to people and family somewhere, even if it's not your blood family. You know, there are people that, when we're lucky when we meet others that we relate to in deep ways. You know, it's not superficial. There's a real understanding and depth of communication, and I'm having, for real, it's gonna make me cry. It's the best time of my life. for real.
And we love you for it. And what's noted too, you have obviously have a big love for horror films, because you were in the 1982 Alone in the Dark. You were in Critters. I've interviewed Dee Wallace on here, and she was in Critters. The Hidden,
Right.
Jekyll and Hyde.
New Line movies, by the way. These were all my brother's films.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I got lucky. I got hired because if it wasn't Bob, I probably wouldn't have been hired for those films. But when I look back at the little roles they like, I love Alone in the Dark, the little receptionist at the institution. That's like one of my favorite little cameos I've ever done. I forgot all about it, and someone else brought it up, and I thought, oh my God, I totally forgot I'd done that, and it's really funny and really weird and great,
What a veteran cast.
Yeah, so I've been extremely lucky. That's the other thing, Greg, is that you hope you have good luck. You can do all the right things and say the right things and make the right choices, and the other thing is you just got to be lucky. And that's just whatever that magic is. Again, it's collision. I think collision of molecules. I don't know how else to describe it, because I walk around every day and I go, why do I have this, and why does somebody have nothing? And I don't know that answer. There is no answer.
No.
It's heartbreaking to me. It really is, because I want to go, what can I really do? You look at all these fabulous people who are so selfless, and by the bazillions, who are nurses and doctors, and who travel to godforsaken places and help people, and I go, and I'm sitting here, making movies. Like, why am I doing that, and why aren't I doing the other thing? And then I go, well, I don't really want to do the other thing.
No.
Maybe that's terrible to say, but I love my life. And so there's no magic potion. I think you really just do the best you can, and then you at least can walk away and say, at least I did the best I could. That's how you want to die. I think at the end of the day, you hope you did your best.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
Yeah. Well, we love you too, Lynn. Don't forget that.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you have like any charities or web page or any social media you want to promote on here?
Not really. My two big charities are Partners in Health and Doctors Without Borders. Speaking of which, of people who go into hell and help others. Those are, so I try and I give something to them each month. It's small amounts, but it adds up, and I feel like at least they deserve whatever help they can get. But I don't have any real web pages or anything. I think we got to just be cognizant of giving your best at all times, and whether it be financial, whether it be spiritual, whether it be comedic, just to really put out the best you have, without malice and without hatred. I know this sounds kind of preachy, but there's so much hate right now, and
yes.
so much me. Again, the iPhone, me. It's all about me.
Yeah.
And you should be about you. You have a little chat. Look at the other guy, and always take into account what their world might be like, because it's not yours, it's theirs. It's different, and you can't make comparisons, but you can be supportive of each other. And so social media, I have a Facebook page and all that stuff, and I do Instagram, and I twit every once in a while. I don't even call it tweeting. I twit.
Yeah.
And but it's too intensive. I don't want to have my head buried in technology all day, and it's getting harder and harder not to, because that's how people communicate.
Yes.
And again, going back to being a communicator as in my work, which is what an actor is, I really try and be aware of that. So there's nothing really to promote, and it doesn't have to be my charities but it's good to look at one or a couple things, whether it be animals or homeless people, or one little thing that you can maybe do, that might make a little difference to somebody. I love carrying around some 20s or 10s or 5s in my car, and sometimes you just see somebody and say, here, buddy, here, go buy yourself some sandwich, or, on a one-to-one basis. I think that's a good thing to do to people. That's a good thing to promote, is keeping your eyes open to what's around you in society and in your daily life, and be kind to people. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. Tell the lady at the newsstand her nails look pretty. You'd be surprised. I mean, you see people light up just because someone noticed something about them. We live in a very crazy time.
Yeah.
It's worse than it's ever been, in my opinion. So that's what I promote. I would promote awareness of each other and of how you portray, how you present yourself to the world.
Do you ever do the conventions?
I have done a few. To be honest, I don't really care for them that much, partly because I love the fans, but it's weird to me and you can make a lot of money. It's a very financially lucrative thing to do. I just haven't wanted to really do them. I'm an actor. I'm not it doesn't feel 100% right for me. And I will do them. I'm sure I will eventually, maybe even more than I have done. It's not like I don't like them. I love the fans.
Yeah.
It's hard work, by the way. It's really because you want to give to everybody. It's very exhausting. And but all I can say is I love my fans, and however in whatever package they show up, it's all good. People send me stuff through the mail, and I always try to answer, and they can go through my agency. Everything's listed on IMDb. My manager and agent is all there. If anybody wants to contact me, that's the best way to do it. I think the conventions can be really fun. I'm a friend of Bill Moseley's. He does all of them. I mean, I don't think home a day during the year without getting ready to go to another convention. And the fans love him, and he loves them, and I love him for loving them and for doing what he does. And it's just I've been so it's been gratefully very intensive. So I have no real desire right now to go out on the road, and it's a lot. It's hard. You got to leave. Often it's out of town, and I've got animals, and it costs me money to go. I've got to figure out things. So for the moment, I'm not doing them, I guess is the short answer to the question.
What's the most unusual thing you've been ever asked to sign? Anything stand out?
No.
No, well, okay. No, I did one convention last year. It was the first time. I got invited by an actress I had on my show a couple times. It was the first time I ever was out of New Brunswick. And it was cool to be at one and be invited by somebody that I admired. So that was pretty awesome. But
you know what? There was one funny thing. I'm interrupting you for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Someone had bought a costume. It was I don't remember what it was anymore. It was wardrobe from a show I did. And
Okay.
They brought in which I guess had been at an auction or something. I don't even know. And they asked me to sign the wardrobe. That was kind of weird. Anyway, you know what? We've got about 10 more minutes, so I'm just kind of.
Yep. Well, you know what? We're about soon here going to wrap up. I really appreciate you coming on here, and of course, talking about the Insidious franchise. There's going to be a fifth one, I take it, right?
I don't. There's been no discussion about it, but generally the way franchises work in general is that if they remain successful, Elise's story is pretty wrapped up. I mean, in terms of that. Mm-hmm. So, but there's a lot of opportunity to. There's a lot of other characters from the other films that could be brought forward. So who knows? It would be lovely. I'm a supporter and want to be in as many as they ask me to do. Mm-hmm. I love Jason Blum and Blumhouse. I love Sony and Universal have been very good to me and to the franchise. And I love the fans who have made the franchise popular. So from my mouth to everybody, thank you so much for the support and for the appreciation of my work and me. I'm eternally grateful. It's changed my life, and I wish everybody to just again do your best, love yourself, love your life, love what you're trying to do, and you will be a successful person.
Absolutely. Well, before I let you go, I was wondering if I could get you to do a plug for my show.
This is Lin Shaye. You're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise out of New Brunswick, Canada. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lynn, and we thank you. I'm saying this on behalf of the fans, but definitely, absolutely on behalf of myself as well. Thank you so much for coming on here and allowing me the honor to interview you. And we love you very, very much, and we wish you many more years of success.
Thank you, Greg. It was fun to revisit all the older movies too. I haven't talked about them for a long while, so thank you. You're kind, gentle, and a smart interviewer. So thank you very, very much for having me on the show.
No problem. God bless you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Greg. Talk to you again.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye.